Hey guys, tonight we're not walking into a comfy castle tour. We're being dragged into the Tower of London, where the stones are cold, the ravens are smarter than the guards, and the walls have absorbed centuries of secrets. You're not a guest here. You're not a tourist. You're a political prisoner. And trust me, no one cares how innocent you claim to be. The fog rolls in thick along the Thames, swirling around the battlements and the twisted iron of Traitor's Gate. You don't even get to see that part. Not really. You're blindfolded. You're shoved off a boat. You hear the clank of metal boots on wet stone and the creak of ropes from boats you can't see anymore. This isn't the glamorous side of history. This is the damp, smelly underbelly. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here, and drop your location and local time down in the comments. I always love seeing where you're tuning in from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The moment you cross the threshold of the outer gate, something shifts. Not just the air pressure, though, that too. It's heavier here, mustier, like the breath of thousands still lingers. No, it's something deeper, something you feel in your spine. Like the walls just noticed you. You're not told what your crime is. Not in a way that matters. Treason, sedition, suspicion of thought crime. Pick your poison. Maybe you backed the wrong heir. Maybe you were just related to someone who did. Either way, you're escorted not by soldiers, but yeoman warders, beefeaters, in their formal black and red tunics. They don't speak to you. Not out of cruelty, but out of ritual. They're already mourning you. You shuffle past the inner courtyard, rain soaking through your hood. The stones beneath your feet have seen better centuries. The place is smaller than you imagined. Almost cozy if you ignore the murdery vibes. To your left is the White Tower, built by William the Conqueror, still standing like an ancient threat with a very pointy crown. Its Norman architecture is oddly elegant, in the same way a guillotine is technically well made. You try to peek up, maybe see the sky, but your hood slips, and you're reminded with a sharp yank that your neck is not yours anymore. The guard doesn't say a word. He just keeps walking, grip firm on your shoulder. Through the mist you spot one, a raven, huge, jet black feathers, claws gripping a carved gargoyle head. It looks down at you, tilts its head, and no joke, you're pretty sure it smirks. They say if the ravens ever leave the tower, the monarchy will fall. Funny thing is, the ravens never leave, but plenty of monarchs have. The main gates creak shut behind you. With that sound slow, deep like wood, groaning in pain, it hits you. There is no going back. No appeals court. No surprise witness at the last minute. You're not in a Netflix miniseries. You're in the tower, and history rarely hands out happy endings here. You're herded into a side building, not one of the famous ones. A nondescript stone structure, low ceiling, small windows, barred like broken smiles. The room smells like damp wool and regret. There's a stool. No bed. Welcome to your suite. The beefeater finally speaks. You'll stay here until summoned. It's not unkind. It's just final. You try to ask questions, but your throat is dry. You didn't even notice until now. Your mouth tastes like metal, not blood. Yet. The door shuts. No lock clicks, but the silence that follows is louder than any bolt. You sit, or maybe collapse. It's hard to tell the difference right now. Your heart finally starts beating, like it remembered how, but slower, as if pacing itself for the long haul. Outside somewhere, a bell tolls. You count the chimes. 7-8. 7-8 doesn't matter. Time won't mean much soon. And then there's that raven again, or another one, at the window, tapping with its beak. 3 soft knocks, like it's teasing you. Historians still argue whether these birds were trained spies, supernatural guardians, or just really committed freeloaders with good timing. You stare back. It taps once more, then flies off into the gray. You lie back against the wall. The stone is cold but not unpleasant. In fact, everything is so thoroughly medieval, so aggressively historic, it starts to feel surreal, like this isn't happening to you. You're just watching it happen to someone who shares your face. You wonder if they'll let you have paper. You wonder if your name will be carved into one of these walls, or if you'll be erased entirely like so many before you. The tower doesn't care. It simply waits. The first real sound you hear after the silence settles is metal on metal. Not the dramatic clashing of swords, not here. It's subtler, duller, more final. The clang of iron shackles being fastened. Somewhere nearby, maybe the next cell over. Maybe yours next. A yeoman warder returns. Not the same one as before. This one has a grayer beard and eyes that look like they've watched 1,000 people break down and still made it to tea on time. He doesn't speak. He just gestures. You rise because there's nothing else to do. You're moved, not far, just deeper in. The corridors twist in ways that make no architectural sense, like some Norman version of a funhouse. You notice the thickness of the walls, 8 feet in some places. One way in, one way out. The tower wasn't built to house guests. It was built to disappear them. You pass a long iron-barred door, behind which is what can only be described as an oubliette, a pit designed not for containment, but for forgetting. A man once dropped in there, might scream for a week before silence claimed him. Of course, historians still argue whether anyone actually survived a month down there, or if the records just blurred names and fates together like spilled ink. You're finally led into a smaller cell, smaller than the last somehow, and presented with your official accessories, a pair of rusted leg irons, a rough wool blanket, and a chamber pot that looks like it's seen too much. It smells like it too. The guard steps forward with the irons. There's a brief, terrible pause, like even he doesn't want to do this part, but then he kneels and begins the ritual. Cold iron, warm skin. The chains don't hurt exactly, but they don't fit either. They dig gently, like a persistent accusation. You flinch. He notices, says nothing. When he leaves, you don't bother testing the door. The cell isn't locked by hinges. It's locked by history. No one gets out unless someone important decides you matter. You don't. There's no natural light here. A tiny slit near the ceiling lets in a rectangle of gloom, just enough to remind you that somewhere beyond all this stone, the world continues. You wonder what people outside are doing right now. Someone's baking bread. Someone's arguing about the price of fish. Someone's falling in love. You're trying to remember how your feet felt before iron kissed your ankles. The ceiling leaks. Just one drop every few seconds. A rhythm. At first it's annoying. Then it becomes company. Tick, tick, tick. You name it, Gerald. Gerald the leak. You and Gerald have lunch together. Tasteless gruel again, served with the enthusiasm of a man being paid in centuries. A small hatch in the door opens. A wooden bowl is shoved through. Inside, more of that paste-like slop, allegedly food. It's mostly water with traces of oats and the occasional surprise crunch that's definitely not an almond. You eat it anyway. Hunger doesn't negotiate in here. It's impossible to tell what time it is. No bells, no sun, just Gerald and the occasional footstep in the corridor. You try sleeping, but the chains clink every time you move. The clink isn't loud, but in a stone box, it echoes like a cathedral. You try not to think about how long this will last. You remember a rumor. A noblewoman, once kept in the tower, had her sheets changed daily, her meals brought from the king's kitchen, and her cat smuggled in under her cloak. You have none of that. Just Gerald and a rat you name Percy, who stares at you like he's sizing up your toes for breakfast. Percy blinks slowly, then disappears into the wall. You envy him. The tower wasn't always just a prison. It was a palace, a mint, even a zoo. But for you, it's a sentence without punctuation. There are no verdicts here, only waiting and whispering. Lots of whispering. It comes through the stones or maybe from your own skull. You hear murmurs at night, names you don't recognize, accents that sound centuries old. The tower remembers, maybe too well. You recall reading that Anne Boleyn's ghost walks here, always headless, of course, because subtlety was not a Tudor specialty. You test the chains, not out of hope, just curiosity. They're secure. You half expect them to rattle back in Morse code, but no just cold steel. That night, or what you think is night, you dream of corridors with no ends, staircases that loop in on themselves, rooms filled with nothing but names carved into walls. Some are familiar, most aren't. One looks like yours. When you wake, the damp is worse. Your blanket holds moisture like a grudge. Your wrists itch. You scratch. The sound echoes. Gerald drips. Percy returns, nibbling something that looks suspiciously like a toe bone. You look away. You think about the last thing you said before being brought here. It was probably clever. You're annoyingly clever when nervous. Something about how you'd explain all this in your memoir. Joke's on you, you're not getting paper. You hear footsteps again. Same boots, same rhythm. A guard pauses at your door. You tense, but he just walks on. The chains remind you you're still here. Still you. Still accused. The morning, or what passes for it, is marked not by sunlight, but by a shift in smell. The cold stone begins to reek faintly of wet feathers and old straw, and you soon find out why. You're taken outside. Not outside like a stroll in a garden, not even the grim inner courtyard with its haunted gallows and ever-watchful guards. You're brought to an open space just inside the outer walls, damp from the previous night's rain, where the cobblestones gleam with age. The air bites your cheeks. It would almost be refreshing if you weren't under armed escort. And then you see them. Ravens, 6, maybe 7 of them. Massive, sleek, blacker than black. One flaps onto a post barely 10 feet from you and tilts its head. You meet its beady gaze and realize this bird is judging you. The tower. Ravens are more than just birds. They have names. They have official ranks. They get better health care than most peasants. Historians still argue whether Charles II genuinely believed their presence protected the monarchy, or whether he just liked big goth birds. One pecks at the stone near your feet, tugging at something shiny, maybe a ring someone dropped years ago. Maybe someone's tooth. You don't ask. The yeoman warder. With you a different one, younger, slightly more human-looking, finally breaks the silence. Don't stare too long. They remember faces. You don't laugh. Not because it's not funny, but because you're not sure it's not true. The tower keeps at least 6 ravens at all times. It's law. Sort of. And they live in miniature houses near Wakefield Tower, like feathery little landlords. If one goes missing, it's a national emergency, or at least a PR disaster. One raven named Grog was dishonorably discharged for conduct unbecoming after eating TV cables in the 80s. Yes, that's a real thing. Yes, you're currently wondering if Grog would have liked you. You're led past the raven pens along a low stone wall overlooking the Thames. You inhale deeply. That was a mistake. The river smells like rot and fish dreams. Still, it's the first real air you've had in days. You look at the horizon. Ships pass tiny as toys. London continues on, indifferent. Somewhere out there is your house, your friends. Someone's eating breakfast, arguing over the last egg. You're debating whether the bird poop on your boot is fresh enough to be an omen. You're permitted to walk in circles under supervision. 20 steps across the courtyard. Turn. 20 steps back. Every loop passes the ravens who have formed a little peanut gallery. You start to suspect they're organizing bets. Then one croaks. Loud. Abrupt. The sound cuts through the fog and echoes like an accusation. It startles you enough to stop mid-step. The guard stares. Keep walking, he says almost kindly. You walk. Later, back in your cell, You replay the Raven moment like a sports highlight. It meant something. You're sure of it. Or maybe you're just desperate for symbols. People in isolation do that, attach meaning to shadows and dreams. One prisoner centuries ago swore he saw angels at night dancing above the ravens. Another claimed the birds brought him breadcrumbs. Another claimed the ravens spoke Latin. The tower doesn't refute any of it. It just remembers. You sit back down on your hard stone bench, which your lower back now recognizes as a lifelong adversary. Percy the rat returns with what appears to be a feather. He drops it like a gift. You accept it. Who says you can't make friends in prison? The walls here have carvings. Not many, but enough. Initials dates whole poems in Old English or Latin. One is just the word why scratched over and over. It's not comforting, but it is company. A guard brings water. He doesn't speak. You murmur thanks. He flinches like he's not used to kindness. As night falls, or what you guess is night, the raven's croak echoes again, closer this time. You press your ear to the wall. A rustle, a flap. You hear something, scuttling, but not Percy. Too heavy, too deliberate. You lie still, breathing shallow, waiting. Nothing happens. The tower, as ever, teases. She shows just enough of herself to keep you wondering. You think of past prisoners. Some were famous: Sir Walter Raleigh, Anne Boleyn, the princes in the tower. Some were erased. You're not sure which is worse. You remember reading that Raleigh kept a pet cat, that he grew tobacco on tower grounds, that he wrote a book, a literal encyclopedia, while imprisoned. You feel lazy, just lying here. You don't even have a quill. The raven's call pierces your thoughts again. This time, it sounds like laughter. Your first real conversation comes not from a fellow prisoner, not exactly. It comes from someone you can't see, whose voice bleeds through the stone like dampness. Still alive over there, the voice asks calm male and just gravelly enough to sound like he's been here longer than you'd prefer to imagine. You hesitate. Words feel foreign. Your throat is raw. Your tongue feels like wool. You croak back, barely. The chuckle that comes through the wall isn't mocking. It's the weary laughter of someone who knows exactly how barely feels. The tower, as it turns out, is not a solitary place, and it's just quiet in the way a library is quiet, full of voices written in margins and carved into wood. You can't see your cellmate, but his words trickle through a gap in the stones near the floor. A draft of history blowing sideways. He doesn't give a name. He doesn't ask for yours. That's how it works here. The less you know, the less you can be forced to say. He speaks in riddles sometimes. Careful of the floor near the back, some stones remember things. And then, don't touch the second brick on the left. She doesn't like that. You laugh, but it's half-hearted. He might be mad, but in a place where time warps and birds remember your crimes, madness might be the most reasonable thing going. Days blur. There's a new rhythm now. Your footsteps pacing Gerald, dripping Percy, scratching, the mystery voice offering half-sane advice. Then one night again, you only think it's night. You hear sobbing, soft at first, then more insistent. It's not the man. It's a woman, younger, frightened, maybe a floor above, maybe right next door. The tower has had its share of female prisoners, some innocent, some dangerous, some inconvenient. Margaret Pole, for instance, was 67 years old when she was executed here. The executioner missed multiple times. She ran. He chased. It was not a graceful end. Historians still argue whether it was incompetence or cruelty, possibly both. You lie there, shackles cold against your skin, and you wonder what her cell was like, whether she heard the sobbing too. The man's voice returns. "New one," he mutters. "They always cry the first week." You want to respond, to ask how long he's been here, but you don't. You just listen. "She'll stop," he says eventually. Or she won't. You imagine the people who built this place laying stone on stone with hands blistered from centuries of obedience. Did they know they'd be building a fortress of suffering? Or did they think they were building a monument, a warning? Your stomach grumbles. You haven't seen the slop bowl in time. Time doesn't exist here, only hunger and echoes. A loud thud snaps you upright. It came from the corridor. A shout, then nothing. You freeze. Eventually, footsteps approach. The tiny door hatch opens. A single candle flickers into view, held by a hand in a black glove. The guard's eyes meet yours. Then, without a word, he tosses in something. A crust of bread, stale, hard enough to chip a molar. You don't care. You tear into it like an animal. It tastes like sawdust and salvation. The voice next door hears the chewing. "They fed you," he murmurs. Not a question, a simple observation. Must mean someone remembered you're still alive. You sit there chewing, slowly, thoughtfully. It's a grim comfort, but a comfort nonetheless. There's a scratching sound. Not Percy. No, this one's different. Larger, closer to your head. You turn. The stones near your sleeping corner bear faint marks. Not letters, just lines. Dozens of them. Scratched deep. Someone before you kept time this way. 1, 2, 3, onward, until the tally marks blur into each other. 50, 100. You stop counting. You're not ready to know. You pick a fresh patch of stone and add your first mark, a small shaky line. Proof you're still here, that you noticed. That night you dream in whispers. The tower speaks in the voices of the dead, some pleading, some amused. One tells you to duck. You wake up flat on the ground, heartbeat roaring. The candle is gone. So is the crust. So is the guard. Just you, Gerald Percy, and the stranger behind the wall. And the sobbing, still faint, still there. You close your eyes and pretend you're in a castle, not a tomb. You tell yourself the stone under your back is warm, that the water dripping from the ceiling is clean, that the ravens are only birds, You lie to yourself just enough to fall asleep. When you wake, it's to the sound of something sloshing, liquid, thick, deliberate. You don't open your eyes right away. There's a moment in that space between sleep and awareness where your brain forgets you're imprisoned. For half a second, you think you're in your bed, that the heaviness on your ankles is just twisted blankets, that the smell is, well, no, the smell jolts you fully awake. It's gruel time again. The little wooden bowl is back and it's looking worse for wear. Someone, probably several someones over the years, has carved little faces into the rim. Most are round, simple, almost childish. One looks almost exactly like yours. You stare at it longer than you mean to. It has a little slash at the side of its mouth, like a scar, and eyes that are more dots than shapes. Still, it's unnerving. You eat anyway. The gruel is the same, grainy thin with the occasional pocket of salt, so intense it makes your tongue curl. You suspect the cook does it on purpose. Keeps things interesting. You finish every last drop. The hunger doesn't go away. It just shifts from loud to polite. It's still there. It's always there. There's a knock on your door. Not the hard knock of a guard. A soft one. 3 times. Then silence. You wait. A slip of folded paper appears through the tiny gap in the door. It flutters to the floor like it's afraid of waking someone. You grab it. It's blank on the outside. Inside, a single sentence. They're listening. Pretend to talk to yourself. Your heart skips. You read it again. Then you tear it into small pieces and flush them through the damp stones near the wall crack. You don't know where it'll go, maybe nowhere. But it feels safer than keeping it. Gerald, you say aloud, directing your voice toward the wall. You think I'm cracking up yet? From the other cell, a chuckle. Gerald's the leak, right? Yeah. We talk sometimes. Mostly about food. Smart leak. Better company than me. I won't argue. This becomes your game now. Pretending every conversation is madness. You monologue about memories, dreams the exact way you like your eggs, soft-boiled, no toast. It's half act, half therapy. Your mystery neighbor plays along. Tell Gerald I want a sandwich, he says one day. He says you'll get one when you get a trial. So never. You both laugh. It's too loud. You clamp your hand over your mouth. No one comes. Later, you ask him about the sobbing girl. He doesn't answer right away. She stopped, he finally says. Or maybe you just stopped noticing. You want to argue. You still hear her. But now sometimes it's humming instead. You wonder how long she's been here. You wonder how long you've been here. Time is measured in food bowls and Percy sightings now. You haven't seen him today. You worry briefly. Then you remember you're worried about a rat and question your own sanity. You try to track the guards by their footsteps. One limps slightly. Another whistles. One always clears his throat just before he slides the bolt open. You think about naming them. Then stop. Names make people real. Real people can disappoint you. The food changes. One day, instead of gruel, you get meat. It's gray, spongy, smells vaguely like goose. Could be shoe leather, could be both. You eat it. Later, the man in the other cell asks, "Did you get the roast pigeon?" That was pigeon or squirrel. Historians still argue. You laugh, a real laugh. It echoes strangely off the walls. The tower doesn't like laughter. The candle above your door flickers out immediately. Coincidence. You hope. Sometimes you think about escape. You trace the window slit, measure your weight against the chain links, test the mortar with your fingernails. It's useless. But it gives your hands something to do. Someone once escaped the tower, not many. A man named John Gerard climbed down using a rope made from twisted bed sheets, smeared his hands in orange peel oil to fool the dogs, and vanished into the Thames fog. You don't have sheets or oranges, just Gerald Percy and a growing urge to dig with your teeth. You spend another night scratching tally marks into the wall. The groove gets deeper. The line grows longer. You're not sure if you're counting days or yourself. The next time the hatch slides open, it's not for food. It's for parchment. A quill, a small inkwell, and a single sheet of paper folded neatly, blank, pristine, in a way nothing else here is. The guard doesn't explain. He simply shoves it through and walks off without a glance. You stare at it like it's a trap, because frankly, it probably is. They've finally remembered you might have something to say or confess. The rules aren't clear, but they rarely are. You're expected to write maybe a letter of apology, maybe a confession, maybe something they can hold up later and say, "See? Even he admitted it." Or maybe they just want to see if you'll say something stupid, in ink. You hold the quill like it's glass. The ink smells metallic, almost sour, not blood, but close enough to bring up memories of scraped knees and older wounds. You don't write your name. Instead, you begin with, "To whom it may never concern." Then you pause. What do you say to the people who hold your life in their hands? You remember reading that Sir Thomas More wrote from the tower? Pages and pages filled with legal arguments, philosophical musings, and polite refusals to betray his conscience. He used irony like a scalpel. The king didn't laugh. You're not More. You don't have Latin quotes or martyr ambitions. You just want out. Or at least you want your mind to stay inside your body. So, you write nonsense. Safe nonsense. A poem about a pigeon. A memory of a kitchen. A joke so bad you hope someone reading it groans. Then you sign it Gerald. You fold the parchment, place it near the door, and whisper, "For review." It's taken the next morning. No feedback. No reply. Just silence. Your neighbor doesn't speak for 2 full days after that. When he finally does, it's just to ask, "Did you write it?" "Yes." "Did you tell them anything real?" "No." "Good." You think he might be proud of you, or jealous. Hard to tell. From then on, the guards bring paper once a week. Always one sheet. Always no instructions. You treat each one like a performance. A new mask. A different persona. One day you write as a pirate. Another as a duck. One letter is just the word Y written 50 times in a spiral. The next is a drawing of Percy the rat in a crown. You wait for consequences. There are none, which honestly is worse. One morning a guard leaves behind 2 sheets by mistake. You stare at the extra page like it's made of gold leaf. You press it to your face. It smells like dust and hope. You don't use it yet. You tuck it under your blanket. Hidden. Sacred. A few nights later, you hear the girl again. Not sobbing this time. Singing. It's a tune you almost recognize. Something old. Something folk. The kind of song meant to be passed from mother to child, hummed more than sung. Her voice is thin, but steady. It carries. You hum it back. The stones amplify. Your reply. There's a pause. Then she hums, louder. It becomes a ritual song traded through walls. No words, just breath and melody. A reminder that there are other lungs working nearby, other souls still flickering. One day you write down the tune, not the lyrics, just how it makes you feel. Sounds like wind through feathers, like memory, like rain that doesn't land. You sign it P, for Percy, for her, for whoever might be listening. It vanishes like the others. The next day your gruel bowl has an extra crust of bread. No note, no explanation. You eat it slowly, like it's holy. Historians still argue whether prisoner letters were ever truly read, or if they were just a test and exercise in futility. Some believe the scribes simply archived them without opening a single one, stacking them in neat dusty piles to decay in storage chambers beneath the White Tower. Maybe yours are there now, nestled between noble confessions and bad poetry. You hope someone finds the one about the duck. That night you dream that the letters sprout legs and walk away. Each one carries a candle. Each one hums the tune. You watch them vanish into the mist. And in the dream, the tower is silent for the first time. The tower is quiet today, not the comforting quiet of a warm afternoon or the hush that precedes sleep. This is the hollow silence that follows after something has happened, something you're not yet privy to. You sit with your back to the wall, legs stretched out, ankles sore from the iron bands. Gerald is silent. Percy is absent. Even the girl isn't humming. The entire tower feels like it's holding its breath. You try speaking aloud just to see if your voice still works. Lovely weather for a rebellion, you mutter. Nothing answers, not even your neighbor. Then, faintly from far above, you hear it. The sound of footsteps, but not the clanking boots of guards. Softer, faster, urgent, and voices, muffled but distinct. A few male, one sharp and female, biting off words like commands. You can't make out the words, but you recognize the cadence of panic dressed in authority. You shuffle toward the door and press your ear against the cool iron. A long silence follows. Then a single sentence drifts down the corridor. She told them everything. That's it. No names, no context. But it's enough. Your stomach turns. You lean your forehead against the door. It's suddenly harder to breathe. She could be anyone. A prisoner, a courtier, the girl. Someone who was once your ally. Someone who might have written to you or read one of your letters. Someone who just wanted out. Betrayal isn't surprising in the tower. It's expected. But hearing it spoken so plainly like a tea order, it hits differently. Your neighbor speaks that night, finally. They always break the quiet just before the axe. You don't respond. You can't. You spend the next few hours lying on your back, staring at the ceiling stone, as if the pattern of cracks might form a message. They don't, unless suffer counts. Then a whisper, but not from the wall. This one comes from beneath you. You freeze. There it is again. Soft. Too soft to be words, but deliberate, like someone trying to speak through layers of stone and time. You whisper back, hello, a pause. Then something moves under the floor. A scrape. You leap up, heart hammering. Could it be a tunnel? Could someone be digging from below? There were tales of such things. Some prisoners tried to escape by carving tunnels with stolen spoons, smuggled knives, or even fingernails. One nobleman, Gerald Fitzgerald, yes, really allegedly used a metal fire poker to dig a passage for months, only to be discovered when the earth collapsed on a rainy morning. Historians still argue whether his plan was brilliant or the earliest example of delusional optimism. You crouch near the floor, press your palm against the stone. It's warmer than usual, but silent now. You whisper again. Nothing. Still, you don't forget it. You begin tapping rhythms on the floor each night, just in case. And then you hear it again. 3 taps from below. Your heart skips. You return the signal. Tap, tap, tap. You don't know what it means, but it means something. And in the tower, something is everything. Your next letter is different. You write nothing at all. Just 3 dots in a row. You leave it near the door. They take it without comment. That night your neighbor speaks. They ask me about you. Today, you tense. What did you say? I said you don't talk. That you hummed to walls. That you named a leak. You smile. That's all true. Exactly. You let the silence stretch. Then he adds, I also said you're harmless. That part stings more than you expect. You don't want to be harmless. Not here, not now. You want to matter. Even Percy's absence feels like judgment. You hear no footsteps, no girl, no guards, no crows. Just you and the floor and the memory of betrayal echoing through stone. The tower is darker now, not just physically, though your candle burned out days ago and no one's replaced it, but atmospherically, morally, if such a thing can be said about stone. The kind of darkness that clings to your thoughts like cobwebs, that settles into the hollows behind your ribs and makes your spine feel brittle. And then come the screams. They don't start suddenly. You almost don't notice at first. just a breath out of place, then a moan, then a rasp, then it builds. You sit up so fast your chains rattle like bells at a funeral. You listen, not breathing. The scream is long, high, and human. Not pain exactly, not physical. Something worse, something primal. You didn't think that kind of sound could come from a person. But the tower, well, she has ways of finding new sounds. They say torture was never officially allowed within the walls of the tower. Not in the neat little legal books anyway. But questioning with persuasion has always been a flexible phrase. And if your cell happens to be anywhere near the Wakefield Tower, or God forbid the infamous basement under the White Tower, you will hear the results. You're not sure which direction the sound is coming from. The tower has a funny way of bending acoustics like it enjoys the confusion. Don't listen too closely, your neighbor says quietly. It stays in your ears. Who is it? Don't ask questions you don't want answers to. You don't speak after that. The scream fades, replaced by something worse, sobbing, but not wild, not desperate, just small, empty, like someone has discovered they've lost everything, including themselves. You lie down. The stone feels harder than ever. Later that night, you dream of a door beneath your cell, one that leads not to freedom, but to a staircase, winding down forever, and every step echoes with those screams. You wake up with your heart pounding and your throat dry. There's no water. There's no candle. There's just the metal, the cold, the quiet, and that new knowledge the rack isn't just a rumor. You think of Guy Fawkes. Everyone remembers the mustache, the gunpowder, the V for Vendetta glamour. But they forget what really happened afterward. Dragged here, hung almost to death, then questioned. He signed a confession, yes, but if you compare his signature before and after, well, let's just say handwriting analysis becomes heartbreaking. Historians still argue whether his confession was voluntary. No one argues whether it was legible. You flex your fingers, slowly, gratefully. A day later, the guards arrive. Not with food, with rope. They don't explain. They bind your wrists, not cruelly, not gently either, like men who have done this too many times to feel anything. You don't resist. You don't speak. You just glance at Gerald. One final mournful drip. They march you through the corridor. The stone seems to lean in around you, listening. You expect to go down, to the lower chambers, to the dark rooms with the devices no one officially talks about. Instead, you go up, which is somehow worse. The stairs twist, the windows shrink, the air thins. You arrive at a chamber you haven't seen before. Bare, gray, one chair, one table, no candles, just a shaft of weak light from a slit in the ceiling. They sit you down. Across the table, a man in plain robes. Not a judge, not a priest. Something in between. He wears no insignia, which somehow makes him feel more powerful. Name, he says. You give it. Reflex. Confession. No. He doesn't sigh, doesn't blink, just nods to the guard. From behind him, a cloth bag is placed on the table. You think it's money at first. Then they untie the top and dump the contents. Letters. Your letters. All of them. Folded. Labeled. Categorized by tone. Some are underlined in red. One has the word unwell scrawled next to it. You reach for them instinctively, and the guards push your hands down. The man across from you speaks again. Did anyone help you write these? No. He studies you. Are you in contact with anyone outside No? Another pause. Did you hear the girl scream? And just like that, your heart freezes. You don't answer. He leans forward, voice quiet. She's gone now. Nothing left to protect or to fear. Still, you say nothing. They wait another moment, then pack up the letters and leave. You're returned to your cell. No beatings, no torture, just questions. And the weight of every word you wrote returning to press against your chest. You sit in the dark for hours, staring at nothing, listening for footsteps, listening for screams, hearing only your breath and Gerald's slow, rhythmic drip. You're not surprised when the knock on your cell comes again this time, louder, more formal. The kind of knock that doesn't ask, it commands. The door creaks open. A yeoman warder stands there, back stiff eyes, unreadable. But beside him is someone new, a man in royal blue robes trimmed with gold, bearing the seal of the crown on his shoulder. He carries nothing in his hands, which somehow makes him more dangerous. He steps inside your cell, like it's his drawing room. Well, he says, glancing around, it's as depressing as I imagined. We really should do something about the smell. You say nothing. He walks a slow circle around you, not hurried, not hostile, just taking his time. You watch his boots brush dust that hasn't moved in days. Do you know who I am? He asks. You don't answer. That's fine, I'm not offended. I'm nobody important, really. Merely someone who advises the people who wear the crowns and write the decrees that decide what happens to people like you. You blink slow and deliberate. He smiles. It's interesting how quickly people become symbols in this place. You're not a person anymore. You're a position, a pawn, an example. He kneels, slightly tilting his head to look into your eyes. You're a sentence waiting to be finished. He stands again, dusts off his knee unnecessarily. You've made some unusual choices, we've noticed. The letters, the silence, the humming. You flinch. Oh yes, we hear everything. The girl, the rat, even the leak has a name now. What was it again? Gerald. He chuckles softly. It's not pleasant. The Crown doesn't care whether you're guilty. Not really. What matters is how useful your guilt can be. Or your redemption. He reaches into his robe and pulls out a small item. A coin. Gold. He flips it once, catches it, then presses it into your hand. It's warm. One side is execution, he says. The other is relevance. You look down. It's just a coin. No markings. No clue which side is which. Prove to us, he says quietly, that you're worth more alive than dead. Be useful. Then he turns and leaves, just like that. The door closes. You open your hand. The coin is gone. You don't remember letting go of it. That night you speak to your neighbor again. Did someone visit you? You ask. Once he replies, long ago, told me the tower was a test, that if I passed it, I'd go free, and did you? I failed. He doesn't elaborate. The silence after that is colder than usual. You lie awake and think of the girl, of her humming, of her absence. You wonder what she said that became everything. The next morning the guards bring paper again. 3 sheets this time. You stare at them like they might bite. Do they want your story? Your loyalty? A name? You write nothing, not yet. Instead, you start talking aloud again. This time not to Gerald, to the girl. You tell her the song is still stuck in your head, that the crows still watch, that Percy might be dead or worse promoted, that someone wants you to choose a side, but both sides look like gallows. You talk and talk until your voice cracks. You talk until you cry, but no tears come, just the memory of them. And then she answers, a whisper, so faint you almost miss it. Don't let them write your ending. It's her voice. You'd swear it. You rush to the wall, pressing your ear against the stone. You're alive. No reply. But you know what you heard. The tower likes tricks, but this wasn't one. You don't sleep. You stay up all night with the paper in your lap, and the words don't let them write. Your ending burned into your mind like a brand. You scratch a single line into the wall, not a tally mark. Just one word, maybe. You start measuring time in shadows now, not from the sun. Because, let's be honest, you haven't seen that friend in weeks, but from the shapes the corridor light makes when it creeps in under your door. It shifts across the wall in patterns you've come to recognize. The sliver-thin morning stretch the squat noonday blob, and the evening fade where it disappears completely, and you wonder if you dreamed it. Your life has become a study in subtlety. Scratched walls, bread crusts, whispered names. But today something different happens. As the light reaches its noonday squat, a guard arrives. Not the usual one. This one is cleaner, straighter. His armor fits. His beard is trimmed. And he carries a chair. That shouldn't be strange. But in the tower, a new chair is headline worthy. He brings it in, sets it down across from you, and says without irony, "You have a visitor." You blink. Who? But he's already gone. Then the door opens again, and in walks a woman you've never seen before. She's in royal green with a cloak that drips water across the stones. Her hair is pinned high, but not extravagantly. Her hands are gloved not to protect against the cold, but against, you suspect, the grime of your presence. She doesn't sit immediately. Instead, she surveys you, like she's deciding whether you're worth the effort. Then finally she takes the seat and leans forward just slightly. "You know why I'm here?" she asks. You shake your head. "I represent someone whose name I won't mention. Someone whose enemies, like yourself, tend to end up somewhere like this." You raise an eyebrow. "I'm here," she continues, "because you haven't chosen yet." Chosen what? Which way your story ends. You're starting to hate that phrase. She pulls a tiny book from her satchel and flips it open. Inside notes. On you. On everything. Some of it's nonsense. Some of it's very accurate. Your letters, she says, are being circulated. You freeze. In secret, of course. Among courtiers. Nobles. Even scribes. Some find them amusing. Others poetic. She looks up, and some think they're dangerous. You blink. You've made people feel something, she says. And in politics, that's both currency and poison. You sit back against the wall processing. She leans in. "So, here's what I'm offering. Write something useful. Something that can be shown. Shared. A piece of paper that might turn the tide of opinion, or justify your execution. The choice is yours. Just know silence won't protect you anymore." She rises, straightens her cloak, and walks to the door. Then she stops just before leaving. "By the way," she says, turning her head slightly, "the girl, the one who sang 'You Sit Upright,' she's not dead. Not yet. But she's further down now, below the foundations, below the oubliette." She looks over her shoulder, below even the screams. The door closes. Your breath catches. You hadn't realized how tightly you were holding it. You look at the paper in the corner. It seems to watch you now. Dare you. Your neighbor doesn't speak that night, not even a whisper. Instead, you hear scratching, faint, steady, below the floor. It's back. Tap, tap, tap. 3 knocks. You answer with 3 of your own. There's a pause, then 1, 2, 3, 4. A new rhythm, a new code. You reach for the stolen sheet you've been hiding, the extra one, the forbidden one. You write the pattern, then another. You tap back. You're not sure what you're saying, but you know what it means. You're not alone. That night you press your hand to the stone and swear to yourself you will write something they don't expect. Not a confession, not a defense, but something harder to kill. A memory, a mark. You scratch a new word into the wall, right below maybe. Soon. The next morning arrives with a kind of clarity you haven't felt since your first footstep into the tower. The fog in your mind has thinned, not because anything's safer, but because something is certain now. You've been noticed. You've been read. You're not just a ghost pacing a forgotten cell. You're a variable, and variables can change outcomes. And that's dangerous for everyone. You're brought water, clean cold, too early. The guard avoids your eyes. He always avoids your eyes. But this time there's something extra in the gesture, a glance too quick, a shuffle too tight. He's nervous. You want to ask why, but the tower teaches restraint. So you just say, "Thank you," and sip. The paper waits in the corner. 2 fresh sheets, no instructions. You leave them untouched. Instead, you focus on the whisper under the floor. Tap, tap, then silence, then scrape, then 4 short knocks. You reply 4, then 2, then silence. It's a rhythm now, a language you don't yet know, but you recognize the structure. You begin scratching it into the wall like a schoolchild copying a cipher. You hope the tower doesn't notice. And then, just when you're adjusting to this new reality, a folded note arrives not from the door, but through the crack in the wall. Your neighbor. You hadn't heard from him in days. You'd almost thought he was gone. You unfold it. Just 5 words. She's alive. They moved her. No signature, no flourish. But your chest aches with something like relief, or fear, or both. You reply on the paper they gave you. You write, "Tell her to hum again." You slide it back through the crack, not caring anymore if it's found. There's a thrill in rebellion, even small ones. It tastes like copper and dust. That night, as the tower groans in its joints and the wind cries like forgotten kings, you hear it. The humming, faint, wavering, but her. You close your eyes and breathe in time with the melody. Even Gerald pauses his dripping to listen. The next morning, everything changes again. Your door opens, fully this time. 2 guards, 1 priest, and a letter. Sealed. You're handed it like a death sentence. You don't open it right away. The priest says it's from outside. Outside. It's not a concept you're ready for. The seal is broken with trembling fingers. Inside, a short note in thin, spidery ink. "I remember you from before. You laughed too much at supper. I envied that. I hope you still laugh. No name, no location, just that." You fold the letter and hold it in your hands like a prayer. You think about writing back. You don't. Not yet. Later, the priest returns, sits across from you, offers no blessing, just stares. "Do you regret it?" he asks. "Regret what?" "Everything." That's the wrong question. The right one is, which part you say I regret not writing sooner. He nods, says nothing more, leaves behind a candle, an actual honest candle. You light it that night, and the glow stretches shadows into dancers across the wall. You let the flame warm your fingers, your eyes, the tip of your quill. And then you write, not to the guards, not to the crown, to her. You write, "I heard you, I still do. Don't stop. They can't take that." You fold it, leave it near the crack. And for the first time, when the footsteps come, they take your letter first. Progress, maybe, or maybe just escalation. Still you scratch a new word into the wall. Below, maybe. Below soon. Listen. By now the tower has stopped trying to fool you into thinking there's a routine. Some mornings there's food. Some mornings there's silence. Some mornings, like today, there's laughter echoing down the corridor as if someone has decided to go mad in a theatrical, enthusiastic fashion. You sit still back against your familiar wall and listen as the laughter morphs into coughing, then sobbing, then nothing. I give it another week. Your neighbor mutters through the stones. You say nothing. The stone under your hand feels warmer today. You check for Gerald's drip still steady, still falling just behind your shoulder with monk-like consistency. Percy hasn't been seen in days. You hope he's found some cheese in a better cell. At mid-morning, your best guess you receive another letter. Not through the wall crack, not under the door. This one is slid in via a long iron stick, like you're something too dangerous to approach. The parchment is thick, expensive, and smells faintly of lavender and mildew. The seal is royal. The ink is blue. You open it slowly, hands shaking, because this is not a letter from a friend. This is an invitation to confess. It doesn't say confess, of course. The language is polite, bureaucratic, elegant, in that threatening way that only the crown has perfected. You are cordially summoned to submit a voluntary written statement regarding your intentions, actions, and affiliations in light of your present accommodations and their legal implications. Voluntary. Like the gallows is a dinner party you can opt out of. You crumple the letter slowly, then straighten it again. Even your rebellion has become methodical. That night the humming returns, softer, sadder, but still her. You hum back, and the walls feel less like prison and more like theater, like you're both performing survival. You write your reply to the summons, but instead of a confession, you pen something else. The tower does not keep prisoners. It grows them into stories, into warnings, into whispers that outlive bricks. You sign it with one letter G. The guards don't comment, but they take it. That evening, when you receive your gruel, the guard offers you something else. A candle stub. No explanation. You light it, and the flame flickers against the wall where your scratched words have grown into a poem. Maybe. Soon. Listen. Now, under them all speak. You hear tapping again beneath the floor, this time different, urgent. You tap back the rhythm from memory. 3 pause, 4 pause, 2. It answers instantly, then a pause, then a word, spoken, clear as ice, cracking in the dark. Tomorrow. It's not your neighbor, it's deeper, closer to the foundations, closer to her. You freeze. You whisper through the wall. Did you hear that? Your neighbor says no, but he sounds worried. You don't sleep. You lie in the half-dark with your face to the stones listening. The tower is breathing. You swear it. Every gust of wind, every creak of wood beam, every shift in the damp is part of some great slow respiration. You whisper her song to yourself. You mouth the word tomorrow. And then, from above, far above, you hear something scrape. It's not rats. It's not chains. It's the unmistakable sound of a key in a lock that hasn't turned in years. But it doesn't come for your door. It clicks somewhere else. And then, nothing. Stillness. Heavy as stone. Morning, or whatever bleak imitation the tower allows, comes with a shift in the air. There's no sound, no raven call, no guard footsteps. Even Gerald has stopped dripping. You lie still on the stone heart, ticking like a rusted metronome. And then the door opens. No knock, no warning. 2 guards, full armor, visors down. They don't speak, just step aside. And behind them, another man, not robed, not armored, plain clothes, brown tunic, a soft cap pulled low. He carries a bundle under one arm wrapped in cloth. He enters without ceremony and sets the bundle down on your stone bench. Then finally, he speaks. Get dressed. You blink. He doesn't elaborate. He leaves the bundle, turns, and walks out. The guards remain blocking the door. You unwrap the bundle slowly. It's clothing. Yours, number finer. Dark, tailored, clean. Someone wants you presentable, which is either promising or fatal. You dress slowly. The fabric is stiff but warm. The stitching careful. You wonder who last wore it. The guards don't move as you change. They don't even glance. They are stone with eyes. When you finish one, finally gestures, you follow. The tower feels different now, not kinder, just awake. The halls stretch endlessly, though your legs remember each twist. You're led past a row of doors, some sealed forever, some cracked just enough to suggest breath within. You pass the menagerie. Yes, it's real, or was. Once this fortress housed lions, tigers, even a polar bear on a leash in the Thames. A symbol of the monarchy's reach. Historians still argue whether it was for spectacle intimidation or just the king's amusement. Today, only the cages remain. Empty iron bars, claw-scratched walls, a broken jawbone in one dusty corner. You stop to stare. One guard grunts. Keep moving. Eventually, you reach a stairwell that spirals down. Not up, down. Past cells, past guards, past even the kitchens, to somewhere colder. You descend so far, your breath becomes visible. The air turns wet. Mold clings to your nostrils. And then you see it. A door of blackened wood. No window. No slit. The guard knocks once. It opens. Inside a table, a chair, and her. The girl. Alive. Thinner, paler, hair cut shorter. But her. She looks up at you, eyes wide. She doesn't speak. You don't either. The door closes behind you. You're alone. The silence between you is heavy, but it's the silence of choice, not chains. You sit across from her. She studies your face like it's a memory trying to return. Then, Finally her voice, quiet, cautious. You kept humming. You nod. I wasn't sure if you were real, she whispers. Neither was I. She leans forward. They think we've been communicating through the floor. They don't understand it. They're afraid of it. You smile. Not out of joy, but agreement. Good. She reaches into her sleeve and slides something across the table. A page. Your handwriting. Folded. Smudged. But yours. You pick it up. It's the duck poem. You laugh. Sharp, unexpected. She does too. For a moment, you're two people, not prisoners, not symbols, just human. Then she leans in again. They're going to use us or end us. You know. She pulls out another slip of paper, slides it across. This one's blank. Write something they can't use. She says, how? Make it mean something they'll never understand. You stare at the page. Blankness has never felt so sacred. She watches you, then whispers, tomorrow is still the word. You write, let them read this and believe it's surrender. Let them pass it around with tea and smugness. Let them write us into their ending while we write ourselves elsewhere. You sign it with a new name, hers and yours, woven together. She smiles. The door opens. You're taken out. She stays. You glance back once. She nods. You return to your cell in silence. The guards don't speak. The light is fading. You scratch one final word into the stone for today. Beneath maybe, beneath soon, beneath listen, beneath speak. Together, you don't sleep that night. Not because you're scared, though you are, but because something inside you has shifted. A weight has moved from your chest to your hands. And that somehow feels like power. You lie on your side and run your fingers over the word you etched just hours ago. Together, it still feels impossible, but it's real. There are no knocks tonight, no food hatch creaking, no guards muttering, no whisper from beneath the floor. Even Gerald seems to take the night off. But you don't mind, you're too busy thinking, what does together even mean in a place like this? You'd always assumed it was the people in the tower who were isolated, but now you suspect it's the ones outside. They have no idea how much life grows in here. Strange, desperate life, but life nonetheless. At some point in the dark, your neighbor stirs. You're still awake, he says. Yeah. He pauses. You saw her, didn't you? Yes. A long breath. Is she all right? She's stronger than they want her to be. He chuckles. Aren't we all? There's a pause. Then he adds, almost shyly, I was her brother. The words hang in the air. You sit up slowly. I didn't know. I wasn't supposed to tell anyone, he says. They said it would put her in danger. You lean your head against the stone. Too late. He doesn't respond. Not with words. But you hear his hand against the wall. A soft tap. Almost a heartbeat. You tap back. You drift to sleep with the rhythm between you, like two clocks ticking in tandem. The next morning, your door opens. with a scrape more hesitant than usual. The guard stands alone. No priest, no escort, just him and a wrapped bundle. Delivery, he grunts. You open it after he leaves. It's a coat. Yours. From before. Somehow it survived. Repaired, cleaned, pressed. Inside one sleeve, tucked so carefully it almost goes unnoticed, is a folded piece of fabric. You unfold it. It's a handkerchief, embroidered with a single word in tiny, careful thread. Live. You don't cry. Not really. But your hands shake enough that you sit down to breathe. You pin the fabric above your sleeping spot, wedging it between two stones. It flutters slightly in the draft like it's alive. Later, the candle returns, and with it 3 sheets of paper. You write on only one. Not a letter, not a plea, a story. About 2 birds trapped in a cage. One sings to survive. The other scratches messages into the bars. Neither is free, but both are seen. You sign it with a symbol, 2 interlocking circles. That night, instead of being taken, your page is collected with gloved hands, carefully like it's precious. You're not sure what it means, but it's different. You sleep easily that night, the coat wrapped around you, the handkerchief drifting overhead, the stones no longer strangers. And just before you drift off, a voice comes through the wall. Thank you, that's all. But it's enough. In the morning, the humming returns, louder, braver. You hum back. 2 voices echoing through a tower, meant to silence. You scratch another word into your wall, beneath all the others. Alive. You wake to the sound of boots, more than usual. A cluster of footsteps, fast and uneven, echoing like a warning drum down the corridor. Something has changed. You press your ear to the door, just as someone outside mutters, "No," she refused. She said she'd rather rot. Another voice hisses, "Keep your voice down." The footsteps fade. The silence that follows is sharp, like it's waiting to be broken. You lean back slowly. That wasn't about you. It was her. She refused. Something. A deal, maybe. A pardon. An offer to testify, to name names, to give up the rhythm beneath the stone. You smile. It's not a happy smile. It's the kind of smile you wear in a battlefield trench, or apparently in a cell. Your candle is gone again. The handkerchief remains fluttering slightly, like it's worried. There's no food today, not even water. The guards want you to feel it, but they're too late. You're already full of something else now. Resolve, maybe, or clarity. You hum her song quietly, not out of defiance, not even comfort, just memory. She hummed when she had nothing. So do you. Late in the day, your neighbor speaks, voice low, hoarse. They brought her to the chapel this morning. You freeze, the St. Peter ad Vincula Chapel. That's the one. You know what that means. Many of the tower's dead ended up there, quietly, unmarked, buried at odd angles under the stones. Anne Boleyn, Catherine Howard, Lady Jane Grey. All women who'd once stood too close to power and fell when the men holding it changed their minds. Historians still argue whether their remains were ever properly buried or if they were simply swept beneath the floor with prayers and pretense. She came back, your neighbor adds, alive. You exhale so hard, it hurts. Barely, he says. You don't sleep again that night. Not from fear, from fury. She said no, and they didn't like it. You pace your cell until your ankles burn. You trace your scratched words with your fingers until they bleed. You want to dig out the wall and crawl through it like a tunnel. In the middle of the night, something slides through the door slot. Not a letter. A key. Small. Rusted. Your breath catches. You stare at it. You pick it up. It's real. It weighs more than it should. You don't try it yet. That would be foolish. But you hold it like an heirloom. You whisper to the wall, "They gave me a key." No reply. Then, "So did they give me." You blink. You too. Yes. You pause. Do you think they're real? A long silence. Then, only one way to find out. The next morning they bring your coat again. This time the buttons are sewn with black thread instead of gold, a silent message. The guards don't speak, but one of them holds a paper, not addressed to you, addressed from you, your last letter. He reads one line aloud. Let them write us into their ending while we write ourselves elsewhere. He folds it, tucks it into his pocket, and leaves. Later that day, the girl hums again, not the same song, something new. It doesn't have a melody. It's a signal. A countdown. You scratch a new word into the wall. Beneath everything else, now. And you wait, with the key in your palm, and a plan in your bones. The key stays hidden under your sleeve, pressed against the thin skin of your wrist like a second pulse. It's too warm now. Not from the weather, the tower doesn't allow warmth, but from the heat of your own thoughts. You keep your movements slow, deliberate. You don't want to sweat suspicion. You don't use the key. Not yet. Because nothing in the tower is ever what it seems. A gift might be a test. A test might be a trap. And a trap might be the only chance you'll ever get. So you wait. You rehearse your movements in your head. What if the key works? What if it doesn't? What if it only opens a broom closet and someone laughs as you rattle the handle in desperation? What if that's part of the plan to see who's foolish enough to hope? But still you hold it, because hope is the only thing sharper than the tower's stones. That day, you're left alone. No footsteps, no letters, no paper, no sound from your neighbor. Gerald is the only company, his drip now rhythmic enough to suggest he's working on a lullaby. But you don't sleep. You study the door, not the lock, not yet. The hinges, the frame, the pattern of the torchlight under the crack, how it flickers in a loop guard, pacing once every 3 minutes. You count. 3 minutes to pass. 3 minutes of blind silence. The cell is a coffin carved in waiting, but now it's also a map. The wall behind your bedding leads to her cell. You know it. You've tapped through it, hummed through it. You can feel her presence, when the humming comes, and even when it doesn't. You scratch another line into the wall, not a word this time. A path. Your path. At the next cycle, you step toward the door, not to open it, to listen. The guard's footsteps approach, then fade. 3 minutes. You kneel, slide the key into the lock, slowly, carefully. It fits. Of course it does. The tower doesn't play with keys that don't fit. It plays with what you do once they turn. You pause before twisting. You whisper, "Now." Nothing. Then, from the other side of the wall, her voice, "Not yet." And that's all you need. You pull the key out. Wait. Hours pass. The light shifts. It's almost evening. You hear movement. A different guard. He's slower. He drags one foot, carries a ring of keys that jangle like he wants to be heard. Then a pause outside your door. You freeze. But the slot opens, and food slides through. No note. But this time the gruel is hot. It's never been hot. You reach into the bowl and find something at the bottom, a folded slip of cloth. You pull it out, open it carefully. One word, inked roughly. Tonight. Your heart skips, then steadies itself like a soldier adjusting armor. You eat, not because you're hungry, but because you might need strength. You finish every drop, even though it tastes like dust and tension. Then you wait. Night descends without ceremony. The guard shift changes 2 louder men with heavier boots. Good. Noise is your ally now. You move quietly with purpose, pressing the key back into the lock. Turn. You expect resistance. There's none. You pull the door. It opens without a sound. The hallway is dim, torchlit, curved. The air is cooler out here, and it smells of ash and wet iron. You step out. Your first step into the corridor as something other than a prisoner. You flatten yourself against the wall. Count. 3 breaths. 4. Then her door opens, silent, like yours. She's there. Thinner, paler, fierce. She sees you and nods once. A silent greeting, a silent plan. You both move. Left, then down. Past the rusted cell with the broken door. Past the wall with the carved wolf, etched by some prisoner who believed in gods older than the crown. Past the torch that sputters too loudly, it always has. You reach the stairs. She leads. You follow. You descend. The tower is older here. Colder. The walls are damp and the stones uneven. You step over a crack that hisses with something not quite steam. The steps end at a wall, a blank one. You hesitate. She kneels, pulls aside a stone loose. Behind it, an opening, small, but just enough. A servant's tunnel, she whispers. Does it still go anywhere? She doesn't answer. You both crawl. The tunnel is pitch black, wet. You hear breathing, yours, hers, and something else. The tunnel tilts downward, then levels. For a moment, it feels like you're burrowing into the earth itself. You lose track of time. The only way to know you're moving is that your hands keep pressing forward into different textures, stone, then dirt, then something slick and unpleasant. And then light, faint, gray-blue. You emerge into a chamber, round, abandoned, a drain in the center. Above you, a grate. You look up and see stars, real ones. You both stare, mouths open. She reaches for your hand. You let her take it. Neither of you speaks. Then she says, "This is where they dump the water." You look around, the chamber smells like rust and lichen. But above you an opening, grated but cracked. If we climb, then we reach the outer wall. She finishes. You smile. It's foolish. It's desperate. It's freedom. You help her climb first. She's light, fast, practiced. She finds the footing like she's been here before, in dreams. She reaches the grate, pushes. It groans. Then it gives. She slips through. Your turn. You climb. The wall scrapes your elbows. One foot slips. You steady. You breathe. Then you're there. You look up and the stars blink down at you like distant witnesses. You crawl out. You're on the tower's outer wall. The Thames glistens below. Cold wind whips through your hair. She grabs your wrist to steady you. Somewhere in the distance, bells ring, not alarm bells, just the hour. Midnight. You made it. You look at her. She looks at you. You both breathe the same air now. You pull the coat tighter. She grins. You grin back. But you're not safe yet. You both turn toward the dark slope down the wall and begin to run. You don't run fast, not at first. The stones beneath your feet are slick with moss and centuries of damp breath. One wrong step and your escape becomes a tragedy, the kind they whisper about in corridors for generations. So you move with purpose, not speed. You follow her always half a step behind your hands, grazing the cold wall for balance. Below the Thames yawns wide, black and bottomless. You hear it lapping at the banks like it's waiting for a body. Maybe yours. You don't plan to oblige. She reaches the end of the battlement first. There, a narrow staircase spirals down the outer edge of the wall, half rotted and lined with frost. This wasn't built for ceremony. It's functional, forgotten. She looks back at you, breath sharp. Still with me. You nod. You want to say something clever, but all that comes out is a wheeze. You descend in silence, listening for shouts, trumpets, anything, nothing. Either no one has noticed, or no one wants to stop you. The staircase ends in a courtyard overgrown with weeds, the flagstones cracked open by time. There's a crumbling arch to your left. An old sally port once used to sneak soldiers in and out during sieges. It's bricked up now, but not entirely. One corner has been broken away, just enough to fit through. She slips inside first. You follow. Inside a tunnel, stone-lined, earthy. The air tastes of mildew and coal. You crouch low. Move fast. The tunnel slopes down again, and then torchlight. Your stomach drops. You grab her arm. Freeze. Voices. 2 of them. Male. Not guards. Just workers. Maybe cleaners. Groundsmen. You press yourselves against the tunnel wall. Hearts hammering. The voices drift closer, but they're laughing. You catch fragments. Something about an argument over salted fish, a cousin's wedding, a lost boot. They pass. You exhale. The tunnel forks. She doesn't hesitate left. You follow. Soon you smell the river, that raw, briny scent that never leaves London's underbelly. You emerge into a small stone outcropping tucked beneath Trader's Gate itself. The water is right there, close enough to touch, but no boat. She scans the shoreline. It should be here, she mutters. You both crouch behind a mossy barrel, waiting. The minutes stretch. Then movement on the river. A tiny skiff, black as ink, silent as a lie, glides toward the hidden edge. One figure rows. No lantern. The boat stops. A low voice. 2. She stands. 2. You climb in behind her. The boat wobbles, but the man hooded faceless says nothing, just rows. The tower shrinks behind you. Not suddenly, not dramatically. It doesn't vanish in a blink. It lingers, like it wants you to turn back and explain yourself. You don't. You sit, you breathe, you feel. Cold, wind, water, freedom. She turns to you, teeth chattering. We made it. You nod, still not trusting yourself to speak. The boatman doesn't talk, just rows, slow and steady. You pass under a bridge, another. The city opens before you unaware. Eventually, the boat slides into a shadowed dock beneath a collapsed warehouse. The boatman points. Go. You climb out. She follows. You hear something behind you. A splash. He's already gone. You stand in silence for a long time. The stone under your feet is not tower stone. It's just street. Street that leads to more streets, to crowds, to anonymity, to life. She turns to you. Where do we go? You look around. The streets are quiet. London is asleep, but it feels awake, like it senses what just slipped through its cracks. You don't answer her question. Instead, you reach into your pocket, pull out the last slip of paper they gave you. You never used it. It's blank. You borrow her candle stub and strike a match. In shaky ink, you write, "We were never symbols. We were never lessons. We were just people." And we left. You sign it with a symbol, not a name, just a circle. You place the paper on the stone dock. Let the wind take it. She smiles at you, ready. You take her hand. You don't look back. Not once. You walk into the city, into the world. And as the tower fades into mist behind you, you whisper the last word you ever carved into stone free. You thought escape would end things, but it doesn't. It only changes the shape of your prison. The tower is behind you now, Yes, its walls swallowed by fog, its windows just cold memories staring into the void. But in your chest, it lingers. The rhythm of boots on stone, the clink of chains, Gerald's steady drip, they echo, even in silence. You and she walk for hours through narrow alleys, past shuttered windows and crooked signs, through markets where the stalls are long abandoned for the night. You blend in by not being seen. There's no chase, no town criers announcing fugitives, no hounds, no horns, which makes it worse. Because if the tower isn't looking for you, it might mean it doesn't have to. It's already inside you. She doesn't say much. Her eyes are hard, alert. Every sound makes her flinch just barely, but enough to tell you she hasn't shaken it either. At sunrise, you find shelter, an abandoned chapel just outside the city walls. Its roof leaks and the pews are broken, but it has 4 walls and a door that closes. That's luxury. You collapse in a corner. She leans against the altar arms, wrapped around her knees. For a while, neither of you speaks. Then she whispers, "Do you think they let us go?" You sit with the question. You've asked it yourself a dozen times in your head. It's not impossible. The Crown loves a narrative. 2 escaped prisoners who suddenly go missing. A better story than a messy execution. Easier to control, easier to deny. They let someone go, you say. Finally. Whether it was us or the idea of us. She nods, then adds, "Letting us live might say more than killing us ever could. The tower doesn't need gallows. It needs witnesses." You think of your neighbor. Your breath catches. You realize with a dull ache that he's still in there. You don't even know his name. You wonder if he was part of the plan. If he knew, he was never leaving. You take a piece of broken wood from the pew beside you, and you start carving into it with a nail you find stuck in the frame. Not words, not yet. Just grooves, lines, rhythms, the same way it started on your cell wall. Maybe you'll write his name there one day, if you ever learn it. She sleeps, curled under her coat, breath shallow hands tucked into her sleeves. You don't sleep. You keep watch. You hum the tune she sang in the tower, just low enough not to wake her, just loud enough that the walls of this place might absorb it. A memory for the next wanderer. When daylight fully rises, you step outside. The sky is pale gray, the kind of color that doesn't commit to weather. You walk toward the edge of the road. No guards, no wanted posters, no suspicious faces, just bakers lighting ovens, horses clopping past, a dog barking at geese. Life. Indifferent sprawling alive. You're not sure what to do with it. She joins you, her eyes squinting in the light. "Next step," she asks. You shrug. Find names. New ones, maybe. You think they'll follow us. If they do, we'll be someone else. She nods, then smiles small crooked reel. You walk. In the days that follow, you build routines, small ones. Bread from a vendor who doesn't ask questions. Water from a pump behind a butcher shop. A woman who lets you sleep in her hayloft for silence, not coin. You don't tell your story. She doesn't either. Instead, you gather pieces of other people's stories. You listen. You write them down. On scraps. On walls. In your head. You become a collector of forgotten things. And with each story you gather, your own grows quieter. But it never disappears. At night you scratch marks into wooden beams, stone walls, the backs of doors, not tally marks. Words, whispers. One building has speak, another listen. One near the river reads, together you never sign them. But she knows. One day, weeks later, she finds a child humming your tune. A tune only you and she and the tower shared. She asks the girl, where did you hear that? The girl points at a man down the street, gray beard, walking with a limp. You don't run after him. You just smile. Because the story has legs now. It's moved on, just like you. And for the first time you believe it. You're not prisoners anymore. You're witnesses. And witnesses never stay silent for long. You end up in a fishing village on the edge of nowhere. Salt in the air. Gulls overhead, boats creaking like old bones. No one here cares who you were. No one asks questions. It's a place built on forgetting. You rent a loft above a cooper's shop. The windows face the sea, and the wind leaks through the cracks like it's reading your thoughts. You sleep on hay. You cook over fire. You write. And slowly the tower fades. Not completely. Never completely. But it loses its sharpness. Its edges blur. You find rhythm in the quiet. She repairs nets for coins. You chop wood. Every few days you trade with travelers. Smoked fish for paper. A song for soap. You stop looking over your shoulder, mostly. At night you still hum. She hums too. New tunes now, but the rhythm's the same. One day, a letter arrives. Not to your name, you don't use it anymore, but to the symbol you once carved in that cell wall, the circle. It's wrapped in oilskin, tucked into a shipment of flour from the city. No address, no sender. You read it by candlelight. I'm still here. The walls are thinner now. They listen to your silence. They ask where you've gone. I tell them you never left. You became the walls. You fold the letter and place it under the floorboard. You don't cry. You just whisper, thank you, and go down to the water. She's already there. Skipping stones, barefoot, laughing, the kind of laugh that doesn't echo, it lands. You sit beside her and watch the sun dip behind the waves. It bleeds gold across the sky like spilled ink across a page. She asks, do you think they'll ever find us? Maybe. And what will they do? Depends on whether they think we're still dangerous. She tilts her head. Are we? You smile. Absolutely. You spend the rest of the evening building a fire. It crackles like applause, like approval. You eat fish and bread. You drink something warm and bitter. She tells a story about a boy who once fell into a barrel of wine. and pretended he couldn't swim so they wouldn't take him out. You laugh so hard, your ribs ache, and then you both fall quiet. The waves speak now. The wind answers. You don't sleep inside. You sleep under stars. You dream not of cells or screams or crumbling stone. You dream of a hall made of letters, of ghosts that hum, of doors that open themselves. You wake with the sun in your eyes and the world in front of you. Later that day, a man comes into the village square selling books. Little ones, hand-stitched with plain covers. You pick one up. The title is simple. Notes from the Walls. Inside, it's your words. Not all of them, but enough. The duck poem, the scribbled whispers, the letter to no one. You glance at her. She smiles. Told you they'd escape before we did. You buy a copy and leave it on the bench near the water for someone else to find. Someone who needs to remember that walls can speak and sometimes they lie. That night you scratch a new word into the beam above your bed, beneath everything else. Under maybe, under soon, under listen, under speak, under together, under alle, under now, under free. Remember, because that's all the tower really fears, that you'll leave and someone will remember that you did. The wind changes. It happens slowly, one gust at a time. First it comes from the east, sharp and briny. Then it shifts warmer, more inland. The gulls fly lower. The water grows restless. You don't know why yet, but something has turned. She notices too. That morning she tightens the shutters without being asked. When she chops herbs, her movements are quicker, less relaxed. There's a knot between her eyebrows that wasn't there last week. The villagers sense it as well. They've started speaking in lowered tones again. Doors are shut tighter, and when you walk through the market, people nod politely, but their eyes flick away too fast. Something's coming. You don't ask what. You don't want to know. You spend the evening walking the coast, not speaking, just listening. Every wave against the rock feels like a warning. And then as the sky bleeds purple over the horizon, you see it. A ship. No flag. Dark sails. No one here sails with black canvas. It's theatrical, purposeful. They've found us, she says. Calm, cold, not yet. You return to the loft, but don't light a candle. You pack your things slowly. There's not much. The coat, the book, the letter under the floorboard. You lift the board carefully, folding the parchment into the lining of your sleeve. She gathers her bag, wraps the circle pendant she's worn around her neck, the one you carved months ago with a length of cloth, then places it in her boot. You look around the room one last time, and then scratch the final word into the beam above the bed. You don't hesitate this time. The wood yields easily. Enough. You leave it behind for whoever comes next, for whoever needs to know that you were here, that this space held more than silence, that someone got out, that someone chose to live. You slip out through the alley behind the Coopers down the slope toward the harbor. The black-sailed ship docks silently like a shark nosing against the shore. But you don't walk toward it. You walk past it. You don't run. You walk. Because running would suggest you're still afraid. And you're not. Not anymore. They may take you again. They may not. But you've already written the ending. And you've made sure it's yours. The city lights flicker in the distance. A new city. A new name. A new tune. She takes your hand. You walk forward. And the tower miles behind you stays quiet. But you know it remembers. Because so do you. The stones of the tower still stand. Cold, patient, watching. But you are far from them now. You are somewhere quieter, somewhere warmer. You're not in a cell. You're not under lock or key. You're wrapped in a coat beside a fire, listening to the gentle crackle of flames and the whisper of your own breath. You can still hear the echoes of your footsteps across damp stone, the soft scrape of quill on parchment, the murmured songs drifting through walls. You remember the rhythm of the drip, Gerald, and the way even silence had a voice in that place. But those sounds are further away now, softer. They no longer hold you. And if on some nights you wake and think you're still there, remember this: you left. You survived. And in surviving, you became something more than they ever expected. You became memory. You became story. And stories slip through cracks that stone cannot seal. So breathe deeply. Feel the weight lift from your shoulders. You're not hunted anymore. You're heard. Let your eyes close gently. Let your heartbeat slow. The tower is just a place now, a shadow, and you are free. Good night.